Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And in this 10-minute moan, I'll have a quick look at the madness just this morning surrounding the SNP with some quite bizarre statements coming out and some heavy politicising. So before I do that, if you want to support the channel, you can either become a member, you can subscribe, or the easiest thing to do, and it takes a split second, is click the little thumbs up button at the bottom of the screen. That would be tremendous help to the channel. So the first thing, Douglas Ross, a Tory, Scottish Tory leader, was interviewed this morning, and he claims that Swinney will be announced as an uncontested leader of the SNP, and therefore the next step would be to propose him to Parliament to be the First Minister, and hopefully for the SNP he would gain enough support to replace Humza Yousaf. Now that's quite bizarre because in the same 24-hour window the Scottish Tories have also withdrawn their motion of no confidence in the First Minister. Now, for those two bits of fact to happen so close would suggest to me that the Scottish Tories are more than comfortable with what's going to happen next. My fear yesterday was if Humza, who's only notified he's resigning, he's not actually resigned and stopped being First Minister, he claimed he would do that once the party had put forward a new leader. He would then step down and he could become the First Minister. Now, when Nicola Sturgeon stood down, obviously it was a slightly different time then, and they were still in the majority government. Now they're a minority government, so it was slightly different circumstances. But it took 6 weeks from Nicola Sturgeon saying she was standing down to find a new leader because it went through a leadership contest, and 6 weeks later before she actually resigned officially and stepped down as First Minister. This time it's a bit different because whoever they nominate as the party leader will not automatically be the First Minister because they no longer hold the majority in government, so they need to go to a vote in Parliament. So you can imagine that not only do they need to find a new leader, they need to find a new leader who will attract the support of at least one other party in Parliament, or they simply wouldn't be voted in as First Minister. It's a bit complex, but if they went for a traditional leadership contest that would involve hustings, etc., rounds of votes, it could take them 6 weeks like it did the last time to find the winning candidate. I don't think the Tories or anybody else would put up with that, because then if they put a candidate forward, let's say they pick Kate Forbes through their membership voting, that would then go to Parliament, and there's not a chance the Greens would vote for her, and possibly she wouldn't get accepted as a First Minister. So then they would have 28 days from that point, because Humza would have stood down, to elect a suitable candidate as First Minister. And if they couldn't get one that Parliament agreed to, we would go to a poll, we would go to an election. They obviously don't want that. So they want to pick the person that they believe will be accepted by at least one other party in Parliament. And it looks to me as if the quiet, off-the-record conversations have already taken place. Ross has been assured that they won't go to an election campaign. Swinney will be uncontested. That's how they'll get round it. They'll only have one proposal. Therefore, you don't need to go to your members for a vote if there's only one potential candidate for the new leader of the SNP. That would then speed up the whole process, and I believe, and that is why and only why the Tories have withdrawn their vote of no confidence in Humza. So I think it's fair to say put the kettle on, that will happen. And Swinney did make a comment yesterday, I believe, or maybe early this morning, saying that he would make an announcement in his future within the next few days. Certainly the amount of people coming out in support of him within the party would suggest he's the chosen one. Now, another strange thing, contradiction that's happened in the last 24 hours. Humza Yousaf on his way out the door said he didn't rule out an election. Yet Flynn is in record today saying he rules out a Scottish election. It's pretty bizarre, isn't it? Bizarre because Flynn is not got anything to do with Scottish Parliament. He's an MP at Westminster, but he keeps taking almost an unsavoury interest in what's going on at Holyrood, so much so that there's some Holyrood MSPs from the SNP slightly disappointed with him and the way particularly he guided Humza to bin the Greens. So I think the Flynn boy fancies himself as a potential leader at some point in his career, but I don't think he's a favourite up in Holyrood with the SNP just now, to be perfectly honest with you. But it's a bit strange that he should be dictating or making even any comment about what will happen in the Scottish Parliament. Another strange thing's going about, right? The SNP are getting urged to refocus on independence. Now, to me, as someone outside the SNP, it's the only constant I've ever had in their whole lifespan of 90 years is they've never shut up about independence. Probably why the country's in such a state it is, because they couldn't govern without talking about it and without having that front and centre in almost everything they do. But they're now being urged to refocus on independence. I don't really know what that means, because about 18 months ago, the way they were going to get independence set out by Nicola Sturgeon was the next Westminster election, if they got 50% of the vote plus one vote, so a majority of the votes for Scottish National Party MPs in Westminster, she declared that that would be a mandate for another referendum. Now, somebody somewhere must have realised that SNP have never had 50% of the votes at Westminster, although they went down there with the vast majority of the seats over the last couple of elections. So then when Humza came along, he sneakily changed it to the majority of the seats. Now that's a far easier thing to do, because you could have the majority of seats at Westminster with probably 30 to 40% of the vote. So kind of cheating, and I don't know how that would give you a mandate, but Humza said that if he got the majority of the seats, that would be his mandate to push for another referendum, which is a lot easier to achieve than Nicola's. So if they're going to get a new leader and they're going to have a refocus on independence, what are they going to do now? They're going to claim that if we get 10 seats at Westminster, that's a mandate. They want to just accept for maybe 4 or 5 years that independence right now is dead. Ignore it. Move on. Try and just govern the country. You're incapable of doing it. But oddly enough, if you did do that and made a success of the country with the rules you've got through devolution, then you might have actually attracted people to vote for independence if you start talking about it 5-10 years up the line when you actually had sorted the job out. But this mob being this mob, they don't. They go on about independence constantly. They come up with some crackpot ideas on how to achieve it, which are completely ridiculous. And nobody, we've already had the highest courts in the land state that they can't have a Westminster election without Westminster's agreement. So I don't know how Westminster will, you go in there, we get the vast majority of the seats, we get 30-40% of the vote, that's a mandate for an election. Westminster ain't going to accept that. So it's not going to happen. Your independence hopes and dreams are dead. So just move on. Revisit it 5-10 years from now. But they won't do that either. So Humza's dead, he's gone, but the chaos still exists, and the amount of flip-flopping they're doing, the amount of contradictory comments they make, they're still a joke. And I think it's amazing that the Scottish Tory leader knows exactly what's going to happen in their party before the members do. So, as I say in all the videos, thanks very much for watching. Thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. And unless you're SNP and what remains of their cult following, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.